Well, good evening, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with your SouthernIndianaWeather.com Beyond the Weather video forecast here for Monday, May the 12th, 2014. It is a little after 9 p.m. I have had a lot of data to go through tonight, hence a little bit of the lateness for getting this out for you this evening. We have a very complicated setup, which we'll talk about this week. What was it Shakespeare said? To be or not to be? That is the question. That is indeed the question. We're talking about severe weather, specifically on Wednesday, to be or not to be. You'll see what I mean here in just a second. Today's video update is sponsored by Metal Magic in Washington. You can give Chad a call at 698-8555 for all of your paintless dent repair needs. They have that great traveling hail team, and folks, they are PDR Nation certified, so whenever you take your hail damaged car to them, you're going to know that you're going to get the best service you possibly can. They're going to get it back into the best condition it can possibly can because they went above and beyond the call of duty to go that extra mile. So tell them Southern Indiana Weather sent you. Write down that number. Folks, you may end up needing it. They're there in Washington across from the Radio Shack. All right, satellite and radar here in motion. We've got a fairly impressive squall line out to the west. Let me take the enhanced satellite off of here so that you can see it a little bit better. Again, it's a little after 9 p.m. here on Monday evening, and you can see not a whole lot severe with it. An occasional severe thunderstorm warning or so here, but by and large, the line really isn't that severe until you get down here and towards Texas, where you start to see this section start to bow out just a little bit more, going severe. But overall, just some heavy rain threats. We've got some more going on. So actually, some tornado warnings up here around the Cleveland area in Ohio, Parma, and other places. Around up in here, we had some showers move through here today, but as you can see, it is just a very nice and pretty sky right now. In fact, if I put the satellite back onto here, we actually have thinned out some clouds quite a bit decently. Current temperatures here, we're still in the low 70s at 9 p.m. area-wide, so you certainly can't complain about that. We got some big changes on the way, though. Let's go ahead and talk about that. Let's take a look at our Storm Prediction Center outlooks. Let's go tier to tomorrow's first. Tuesday, you notice no slight risk for severe area on Tuesday. Just a couple of C-techs. If we go over to a probabilistic, a very marginal risk for severe weather tomorrow. A 5% risk has been outlined for our area. That is, of course, well below a slight risk. Slight risk starts at 15%, upper end slights at 30%. Just an absolute marginal risk. The lowest one they go down from a 15% is a 5%. So we are a step below a slight risk for severe weather. It's going to be sort of an iffy situation. I'll be honest with you, if we get any severe thunderstorm warnings tomorrow, it will be very isolated. I can't rule out that we get a strong storm out of it, but I'm not too worried about tomorrow. It's Wednesday. That looks like the more dynamic setup. And let me go ahead and take you through the day 3 outlook for Wednesday. And now remember, this was issued early this morning. They only issued day 3 outlooks once a day, so we've got some new data since then. But at that particular time, it looked like the slight risk, the best chance for it, obviously, from the way that you can see this, starts really from Louisville, Kentucky, over to Lexington, and then just sort of an oblong shape here. But based on some of the data that I am seeing today, think the slight risk is probably going to need to be more like this, which would certainly include us. How far north it goes would still be to work out, but I think that slight risk should probably include us. So let's go ahead and talk about the data. It is a very, very, very complicated setup. Let me show you why it's a very complicated setup. I can illustrate this easily for you. We've got a cold front that's going to move through, and we've got a low pressure that's going to ride up along that cold front. Now, as it rides up along that cold front, that's either going to do one of two things. It's going to put us on the cool sector of the cold front, or it's going to put us on the warm sector of the cold front. One would lead to temperatures in the 50s for highs. The other would lead to temperatures upper 60s, even low 70s, potentially for high. With the 70s, we would have a good shot at severe weather. That would bring the instability with it. With the 50s, not a chance we're going to get severe weather out of this. Very different outcomes. Here's what the GFS does. The GFS takes the low and tracks it in a fashion. Let me just illustrate this for you because I think this is probably the best way to do it. The GFS takes it in a fashion similar to this and moves it up through here. That would put us in the cold side of the sector for us, and of course would give us no severe weather out of this. All right. Now the NAM is way over here and sort of takes it like this before it starts to move off. That would put us in the warm sector, and that would certainly favor severe weather. Euro is kind of split in the middle, and the Canadian GEM model is more over to what the NAM is. So, the reality is we have a lot of things that we have to work out here. who's going to be right? Because, well, if it's the NAM and the low tracks over here into the boot heel of Missouri, but if it's the GFS and it's over here past Cincinnati, more towards the Cincinnati and Ashland areas, that's a big difference. You're talking, maybe 200-300 miles worth of a difference in how that low pressure tracks there. That could make a very, very, very big difference. Let me show you exactly what I mean by that. Well, one, this is favoring the GFS solution right here. The NAM solution would take the slight risk further to the east, but let me just show you exactly what the difference this would make. Let's talk about temperatures. Here's what the NAM solution is. The NAM solution, as I said, favors severe weather. Okay, here we go. Here's what high temperatures would look like under the NAM on Wednesday. 72 here in Huntingburg, 69 in Evansville, even 62 up here in Bloomington. Let me show you what the GFS would do. Mid-50s at absolute best around the area. Low 70s or mid-50s. There's a big difference right there. Would we not agree? Euro model, all right? Euro model kind of splits the difference and takes low 60s for a high temperature. Canadian agrees more with the NAM and takes it into the mid-60s to even the low 70s for a high. So right now it looks like the GFS is kind of the oddball out with cooling us down that far. So I'm not ready to say that the GFS needs to be thrown out at this point. We'll take it into some consideration. But right now it is kind of the oddball out. It looks like maybe mid-60s or what we may think for a high is what I'm going for right now. I think I've forecasted a high of 65, kind of split the differences between the models. So, but the question then becomes, with that, do we get any severe weather or not? Let me show you what the NAM says, and let me show you what the GFS says. Hold on, folks. Let me pull something up real quick. Alrighty, folks, my apologies. I needed to pull this up real quick as I did not have it pulled up. Had it saved on the desktop and ready. Didn't have it pulled up there. The miracle of the pause button. What I'm showing you is a couple of views from BuffKit. It's a computer program I use to analyze the data. I'll spare you all the gory details, but here's the illustration between the GFS and the NAM. Here's the GFS on the left. Remember, if you want severe weather, we have to look at several things. One of the things we look at, the key is instability. We're going to look at wind energy to see how strong it is, and we're going to find some sort of a lifting mechanism, something that's going to cause those storms to develop. Obviously, the low pressure would be our lifting mechanism, and of course, the differences in where it's at is going to make differences in other things as well. But take a look at our instability values. Notice with the GFS, instability is a big fat goose egg, 0. That would lead me to say absolutely 0 chance of severe weather under the GFS solution, in my opinion. Lifted index here is another sign of instability, 9 in the positive. That is stable air. That's not unstable air by any means. That's not going to get thunderstorm development out of it. On the right side over here is what the NAM is saying for the same exact time on Wednesday evening. CAPE, convective available to potential energy. There's your instability values. 653 instead of 0. 653 is not off the charts, but it's reasonable, and it's within the realm of giving us some severe weather probabilities. Lifted index, a negative buoyancy, a negative number on this is what you want. That's a negative buoyancy, which means the air will rise. Positive means the air is going to sink. That's the general premise on this. Very stable air over here. Small amounts of instability over here. Thunderstorms can develop. See the difference between the two? The position of the low pressure makes the absolute critical difference as to whether we get severe weather or not. Okay, now who is right? Is it going to be the NAM or is it going to be the GFS? As I said, the GFS is a little bit on the oddball side right now, but the NAM is a little bit on the oddball side too, because as I showed you earlier here, you can see that the Canadian and the European model actually are not that far off from each other. This is all for the same time frame, by the way, on Wednesday evening. So you can see 4 very different solutions, but the Euro and the GFS have it on fairly much the same track here. And eventually, I think it would track in a very similar way. Both the Euro and the GEM actually track at the low pressure up a little bit more like this, rather as the GFS goes more over here. But the NAM is also an outlier solution, so with a little bit maybe too far to the west. GFS may be a little too far to the east. So we'll have to moderate these a little bit, but that's the way it stands right now. Severe weather or not. Well, if you believe the NAM, then we certainly got a little bit of instability values here. Here's what the NAM looks like as far as the map of instability wise, and you can see there's plenty of it there to work with. I mean, it's not off the charts, but there it is. Let me show you the wind shear. I mean, look at bulk shear, surface to 500 millibar. For looking at bulk shear values, remember bulk shear is change in wind speed as you move up from the surface of about 18,000 feet. If you want severe weather, then what you're going to be needing is about 35 to 40 units of bulk shear to get organized severe weather. And 35 not knot starts here in the second blue shading, and we find that. We find about 35 to 40, maybe even 50 knots at times over our area. So that would certainly be indicative with a strong low pressure moving in, a reasonable amount of bulk shear, and a little bit of instability. I could see a few thunderstorm warnings coming out of that. Definitely. The NAM would suggest severe weather to me. The GFS, I'm not even going to pull GFS up and worry about your time about it, but let's just suffice it to say bulk shear numbers are low on the GFS. Instability is just a big old goose egg for a lot of us. It's absolutely nothing. You're not going to get severe weather out of the GFS. I wouldn't even put us in a marginal risk, personally. So that's kind of the way it stands right now. Let's see if we can time it out here on future radar. This is the NAMS version, so this is the aggressive one with the severe weather, but it's the only future radar we've got that we can really use that sees this far out, so I'll show it to you for what it's worth. Here's tomorrow, Tuesday afternoon. An isolated shower or two possible on Tuesday. Here we are at 4 p.m. on Tuesday. We've got a few pop-up storms moving in. All right. Here we are at 7 p.m., 8 p.m. You can see a few of those storms move in. More of an isolated nature, though, on Tuesday afternoon. Some of us get wet, a lot of us stay dry. You can very clearly see that. Now we go into the overnight hours. We get a decent amount of rain overnight. Here we are by about 5. Here, let me stop here. Here's 2 o'clock on Wednesday. Notice we're dry around here. Maybe seeing some sunshine. That might increase our instability values if we can get any sun. Boom, by the time 5 comes, we get heavy rain threat over us. Squall line looks like it's organizing to the west. Here is 8 p.m. And then as we move on, it is starting to move over us. Is it going to be just a heavy rain threat, or is it going to be severe? Right now, it's looking like a massive blob, looking like it may turn in more into a heavy rain threat than severe, but it's something we'll have to watch and keep an eye on. So, to be severe or not to be severe? That is the question. Pick your poison. Do you favor the GFS? Do you favor the NAM? As far as my professional opinion, I think it's probably going to be a cross in between. I don't think we're going to see zero instability like the GFS is saying. I think we've got a shot at some severe weather on Wednesday. Is it as strong as the NAM is saying? I'm not convinced. I'm thinking that maybe the GEM or the Euro solution, sort of the meat in the middle, may be a little bit more of what we're going to look at. But it's something hopefully by tomorrow we'll be able to start fine-tuning a little bit. It is ridiculous that we're 2 days away from this and the NAM and GFS are this far apart. Thankfully, that rarely happens. Usually they're in decent agreement this far out. This far in, I should say. Hopefully they'll start to come to a better agreement between the two of them, because obviously they both can't be right. Those are two extremely different solutions. We'll have to fine-tune those details over the next day or so, and that's about all we can do for right now. But for now, just know that severe weather is on the table potentially for Wednesday, and keep it here to Southern Indiana Weather for more details. All right, let's go to southernindianaweather.com and take a look at your 7-day forecast, sponsored by Ubelor & Sons. Partly to mostly cloudy tonight, maybe an isolated shower overnight, but nothing too aggressive. Down to 66 for your low. Going up to 80 on Wednesday, again with a few showers and thunderstorms. Probably a little bit more than isolated, but not widely scattered either. High of around 80. A strong storm possible, can't be ruled out, but I'm not overly excited about severe weather. I'm not going with the 50s on Wednesday like the GFS is saying. I'm not going with the 70s like the NAM is saying either. I'm splitting the difference right now and going 65. Hopefully, again, we'll be able to fine-tune that data, but it does look like a good chance of some severe, precipitation-wise anyway, 80%. Strongest severe thunderstorms possible. We'll leave it at that for now and see where the models take it. And then regardless, you see the 60s return, and all the models are now saying that. So it is going to cool down by the end of the week. All right, folks, remember that we are now on, here we go. I get into the right tab. We are now, our mobile app is now out on Google Play. It is not out for Android. It is out for Android. It is not out for iPhone just yet. iPhone lovers, it'll be about 2 weeks hopefully before it gets out. They're just a little bit slow in getting it out there, but it is on Google Play. You can go to play.google.com or just pull up your Android phone and go to Google Play. Just type in Southern Indiana Weather and you should be able to find it. There's some screenshots of what the app looks like. And if you don't find it starting away, then just put the Southern Indiana Weather in quotation marks so it thinks you're looking for a title, and you can find it easier that way. So get out there and do it, folks. It's a great little app. I'm really proud of this thing. I think it's a good little thing. You can get your 7-day forecast. Just clicking right there on the forecast, and everything that you see right there on the website, eventually it will load. Here we go. It just takes it a little bit. I'm on a slow Wi-Fi connection here, using a lot of resources, but you can find the same forecast and almost most of the stuff that we see on the website you'll have here, live radar, in the whole 9 yards. So a very useful tool. Check that out, folks. Let us know what you think of that. It is there for your use. That is it for this edition of Beyond the Weather. I'll have another one of these probably tomorrow night if we can get these things lined up a little bit better. Have a great night, folks.